Today's guest was the 2022 OKBF Angler of the Year and Rookie of the Year. He's qualified for the West Coast Championship twice in 2022 and 2023. Fishing out of the OKBF is Brandon Hua. It's a good episode, I think. He's got a lot of information, been around not so long in the kayak world, but he's definitely got a stacked record of accomplishments, that's for sure. Today, I am interviewing Brandon Hua, who happens to be the 2022 OKBF Angler of the Year and the Rookie of the Year. He's qualified for the West Coast Championship multiple times and has fished 3 or 4 no-limit events. I think it's your. How you doing, Brandon? 3.
No,
you're going to your 4th, right?
I mean, 3? I think it's 3. I can't even remember.
You finished 3. I think the 4th one's covered up.
It was like potholes, and then Umatilla fished the native at Clear Lake this year. So yeah, coming up on 4.
That's wild, man. Those are fun events, though.
Yeah, totally.
When did you start your kayak tournament fishing?
Started in 2022. Man, it's a long story. Like, my background is so diverse in tournament fishing. I started off fishing at Oregon State University as part of the college fishing team back in 2014. And that's pretty much where my tournament kind of career, I guess you want to call it, started. Fished Clear Lake was my first ever bass tournament. Fished there with the Bassmaster College Series. Got 10th place there. Went to nationals at Lake Chatuge. Definitely not one of my favorite lakes. First time I ever fished for spotted bass, so that was interesting. But it was a cool experience. Opened my eyes up to everything, and came back locally. Fished as a co-angler for I don't know, like 4 or 5 years locally. A lot of local clubs and stuff. Was fortunate to get 3 back-to-back co-angler of the year titles. Started there pretty much. Kind of learned a lot of it. Like, I tell people, I'm a culmination of everybody I've ever fished with. And if anybody wants to get into tournament fishing, definitely fish as a co-angler. You just learn things that are strengths from like a whole bunch of different people. I'm a visual learner, so that's kind of how I learned a lot of diverse techniques over the time. But after that, fished, let's see. I think after that, fished like some TBF events, the Bass Federation as a co-angler. Eventually decided to go fish Pro-Ams, the Wild West Bass Trail. That first year, I think I cashed 3 out of 4 checks. So it was like New Maloney's, Delta, and then Columbia River. Columbia River ended up winning, and then I got a bass boat after that, basically. Got the funds for it. So jumped to the boater side for 2 years, but my boat had like motor issues. You know, of course, the first boat always has that. And then my last truck got totaled, so I had to make the decision to sell my bass boat to get like a reliable truck. And then during that time, Next Adventure gave me an opportunity to try out some kayaks. So that's pretty much how it all led to it. My buddy Matt Walker from OKBF, he's been kind of poking me for a while to do kayak fishing. And I tell everybody, you got to blame that guy for having me join KFNW.
That's funny. Are you part of their team, or do you work there as well? Or
so I do work at Next Adventure, part of the marketing team, but tried out kayaks before I actually started working there. Just kind of something that just came with the content creation, I guess, for them. They wanted me to get in kayaks and showcase it for them, and then it kind of just all went from there. And then yeah, pretty much part of the marketing team, started the kayak fishing team, wanted to make that an objective for them because it's just something that, you know, having, I guess, you know, people in the field and the community can be a good way to help, you know, draw business. So picked a bunch of guys who have either been around or have a little bit of influence here locally. So it's been super cool.
It is awesome. I haven't been in that shop yet. I heard it's massive, though. You guys can do pretty much anything there, right?
Like, yeah, well, there's actually 4 shops. So we got 2 paddle shops. One is called the Paddle Sports Center in Portland. And then we also have one in Scappoose Bay. That one's super cool. That one, we actually have like an actual boat dock with like 50 or 60 canoes, kayaks, and paddle boards, fishing kayaks, all of it. And people can actually rent and go demo on the water there. And then we have 2 like general outdoor shops that does like the camping, winter sports, all that. One in Portland, one in Sandy.
Awesome. So then your first OKBF event was at the Lake Waulu event in 2022?
Yep, that was the first official tournament. So it was a big surprise, that tournament. I mean, we had our season opener, which is like one of my favorite events because that was kind of like my first time getting my feet wet in kayak tournaments. Oddly enough, Matt Walker drew me, so it was a fun time. I didn't execute on my end. He caught two fish. I only caught one, but I did get big fish that opener. So that was super fun. But yeah, Wallula was the first event. That one went way better than expected. Ended up getting second there, which was super cool. Dan, which you just had on, recently, he ended up beating me. I did have a fish that would have went past him, jump off the board, but that was my rookie mistake.
Oh, man.
And that's just something like you learn from getting time on the water. After that, I always put my net to the side of me so that that fish pops off the board and jumps into the net. That's one of the biggest things I try to tell everyone who's new. Don't make the same mistake I did.
How often does that net come in handy, you think?
Oh, all the time.
All the
All
time.
the time. Like a lot of my videos, like you'll see all the time, I'll have fish jump right into the net, especially smallmouth. They're just so vicey.
It's true. Very true. And then you went on to win the Boone's Ferry event that year too.
Mm-hmm.
How was that event? I haven't been to Boone's Ferry.
That was one where honestly I had so much low expectations. Like I used to fish that river a bunch, like I don't know, probably like 6 years ago. But it's just until the last 2, 3 years, it's just been kicking out little fish. So I'd rather go up to the Columbia or something. Um, Practice like 2 weeks before, and I didn't even think I caught a fish over like 13 inches. So really low expectations. Went into it throwing a 6-inch swim bait and got three of the right bites, and it was enough to win it.
It was one of those. Huh? I haven't fished too much. That's the Willamette River, right? The Boone's Ferry?
Upper Willamette.
Upper Willamette. Is it mostly smallmouth up in there? Or?
There's largemouth too. You find some
Yeah.
of those backwaters. There can be some, but it's only like certain times of the year. Most of the time, those fish, I mean, I feel like it's the same thing as the Columbia. Once it gets kind of later towards the summer, they kind of vanish because the backwaters are so warm. And you just, I don't know, get lost in the current. It's kind of weird.
What were your expectations going into the 2022 season? Like, were you planning on winning the AOI, or was that one of your goals?
Honestly, I felt like it was going to be like a huge learning curve. Like, I think the one thing about kayak fishing, which wasn't hard for me to get used to, was like fishing slow and not being able to go many places. And like I had a 14-foot John boat. I built a deck on it, put a little Minn Kota edge on the front. That was like my little rig to go fish everywhere. So fishing slow, not being able to run a whole bunch of places was pretty easy for me. It was more so like, can I not fall out of the kayak? And it's like trying not to have the tendency to want to make these 3-4 mile runs just to go see a fish or somewhere. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty easy getting used to. And yeah, honestly, I didn't expect to have the year I did. I mean, a lot of these guys have way more kayak experience than me. I'm pretty bad at making poor decisions. I like to go big or go home. Try to just chase one bite at a time, and learn pretty quick that you just kind of got to get a limit and then work your way from there.
Is that your strategy now? Is kind of catch the limit first, then go for the bigger ones, or?
Yeah, typically that first year I mostly did like I just need to get 5 big bites, and that's what I did. And it would take almost an entire day, but I learned pretty quick that if I don't get that 5th bite, that's going to ruin a whole season for AOY. So I try to get away from that.
That's awesome. And then you also qualified for the West Coast Championship in 2022. Did you go down to California for that?
Yeah, ended up going out with that with a bunch of guys from, I think mostly from Oregon. I actually stayed in 2 houses during the time. I went down a little bit earlier with a few other guys, and then ended up staying in a different house with like Marvin. I think Gage was there, William Eshelman, Richard Childs, some other guys. But yeah, that was a fun one. It was definitely a different experience. First time fishing Clear Lake out of a kayak. I'm like, I want to run here. And I'm like looking at Google Maps. I'm like, oh, that's definitely not going to do that. We didn't have motors at the time. KFNW didn't. So all the Cali guys had motors, and I blast off. Everybody's just gone. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to go where they don't go.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah,
So
but
that was
that event was
fun.
cool.
Is it a lot of people down there?
Yeah, I can't remember how many people we had that event. We definitely had over 100 anglers.
Wow.
Place I launch out of, Brados. There's a small canal and the water's low that time of year. So, like you can't just like launch and stay right by the boat launch. You had to like kind of move out a little bit. And it was just a little channel. And there's probably like 40 of us out of like 120 people just sitting there. And I'm just like, dude, there's just no way this is happening. Like it took forever to get out of there. Bite was real tough that year. Like I don't even know how many. I think I caught 4 fish the first day, and I had me in like 17th place. And then I caught 0 fish the second day, and then only dropped to like 35th,
Dang.
something like that. It was wild. Bite was tough. They just sprayed it, tried to kill all the grass, and the fluctuation of north and south winds kind of mixed it all up. So it was rough.
Those wind changes are terrible some days.
Clear Lake gets nasty in the wind.
I haven't been down there yet. I want to. California for sure.
Yeah, Brados is like right in the middle where the narrows are, and that's like one of the worst parts. It can get dicey.
Sounds like fun. Kind of. Not really. It could be. It's probably the
It's a fun
torpedo is
lake.
probably a little better for the wind.
Yeah.
Oh! Did you double dip down there? Did you do the Yak and Bass events as well? That happened on Saturday and Sunday.
I didn't. The nice thing about that event is like Kayak Bass, you can sign up like last second, basically like night before tournament day, I believe. So I always told myself, well, it depends on how pre-fishing went. And I literally only had like one offshore spot that I could catch fish. So I was like, I'm not signing up for both. I don't think there's enough fish.
Right. Did you travel with Matt too down to there? You guys
Yeah, we
Airbnb it
usually
or?
do. That dude, he's such a slow driver. I give him a 2 hour head start every time. And he knows this. Me and him and a bunch of our buddies, those joke around. Like, I think he left like 5 hours before me, and I got there like 2 hours after him, or not even that.
That's fun. It's like all the time too. Just everywhere he goes, it's just
Yeah.
slow.
Like, you go first and I'll catch up. Yeah, usually we travel around together. It just makes it easy, like with these long drives, I've just learned like it's nice to have someone to talk to on the phone or something just to keep you kind of occupied while driving. You're about so many, accidents, people falling asleep. So I always try to call everybody I know while I'm driving and try to fill up whatever time it takes.
Sure. You fish there a bunch, so you already have like a kind of a plan from previous events, or do you always go with the new plan when you're going to another event?
Honestly, like until like the last 2 years, I've never really fished like the entire lake, or like it seems like every time I'm there, it's always a different time of year. This will be like the first time for this year's West Coast Championship. I'll be there like at a similar time that in the past. But this year the water's super high, so it's totally going to be a different lake. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I haven't fished like every single section of Clear Lake, and it's always changing. The grass changes, water level. So it's hard to like go based off of history.
Dang. So after one event, you've already qualified for the Kayak Bass Classic from KFNW and the WCC, the West Coast Championship.
Yeah. Got it all out of the way. I'm so happy.
You still going for the AOI, I take it?
Yeah, definitely.
Events.
Last year I think I lost to a double tiebreaker with Cody Allison, and that one hurt. So this year definitely I'm gonna aim towards it, but unfortunately I might not be able to fish all 5 events. So this I gotta do what I did in 2022. 2022 I missed one event as well, had a wedding to go to, and the same thing's happening this year. So no throw out, no mistakes, just gotta execute each event.
Same friend? Get married again?
No, luckily not.
Just
I got like 5 weddings this summer I got to go to. So one actually falls on West Coast Championship, but luckily that one's out of state. So
oh man,
I caught a break there.
Draw straws for that.
Yeah.
So the KFNW Classic, what is that event like? Like, is it stressful or competitive? The competition pretty tight, or?
I mean, it's definitely the best of the best. It's not an easy one to qualify like West Coast Championship. Top 2 AOY for each state, or you win an event, or long lines for AOY. Like it's the best of the best, which is really cool, honestly. Like you could definitely tell, like when you go to these captain meetings, everybody's kind of like their chest is all puffed up and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna win this. So it's super cool. But at the end of the day, man, like the kayak community is so cool. Like we're all friends at the end of the day. Like it's totally different from like the basketball world. Like those guys like have big egos and it's just like totally different. We'll still all chat with each other and some of us who even talk about like, so what'd you find, all that. So it's not too bad.
It's not like that in the boat world at all. Everybody's kind of independent.
Yeah, it's a totally different vibe. That's why I love kayak fishing so much, honestly. It's like we can still have fun. It's still competitive, but like it's not like we're trying to butt heads the whole time.
Right. Nobody's fighting each other that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, someone wins in a bass boat tournament, everybody just leaves the boat launch, and here we're all cheering each other on, saying congrats. It's like totally different.
Absolutely. And then that brings us to 2023. That was a little different year for you, right? I mean, you placed second in the 10-mile lake.
Mm-hmm.
How's that lake? I haven't been there either. 10 miles at 10 miles long. How to get its name?
It's pretty long in some areas. It's divided into North and South Lake, but the primary launch is in South. It's just all largemouth there. It gets a lot of fishing pressure. Like I think in like April, there's like a tournament every weekend up until May. So it gets a lot of pressure, but it's super cool. It has a lot of like 3-pounders in it. I think I've seen like a 8.5 get caught out of it. I'm sure there's bigger, but it's super cool. Large abundance of like quality largemouth.
Is it on the coast or is it
Yeah,
more towards
goes to Oregon, so Reedsport, a little bit south from Reedsport.
Reedsport?
Yeah,
How you like fishing on the coast? Man, I think the Oregon coast has got some of the neatest lakes that I've ever fished.
I've spent a lot of time there fishing bass boat tournaments, so it definitely is a fun place, and I guess pretty dear to my heart. So it's always super fun because mostly you go there and you fish shallow, right? It's like
Right.
put the active target or live scope front facing sonar away and just go fish shallow. So super cool.
How was the 2023 West Coast Championship? Same bout.
That was at the Delta. It was cool just because it was a Delta. I got like a bunch of Oregon guys and well, also Michael Mumford from Idaho. We all stay together. We're all in like a little Facebook group that we kind of coordinate our arrangements to Airbnb and stuff. It was a lot of their first time there. I've only fished the Delta like 3 times, 3 separate trips. So it was totally different for them. So it was cool to see them like got to experience it. I think we launched and Matt Walker was still like getting his stuff like set up in his kayak. Like he's playing music, just taking his time. We're all in the water. I was like, guys, let's just start fishing this little reed island. And what was it? Jason McClure, he made a pitch at one little reed and caught like a 4.5-pounder right in the marina. He's like, dude, I freaking love this place, dude. And then Colin Sutton catches like a 2.5-pounder, and they're like, dude, is this what the Delta's like? I was like, usually not, but okay, here we go. So it was cool, man.
That's funny. I haven't fished the Delta. I watched a lot of Greg videos. Blanchard, he's always down to the Delta. Have you met Greg?
Yeah, hung out with him a couple times. Actually, at the last native event at Clear Lake, I went over to have some beers and played some poker. So
very cool.
Yeah,
is he gonna come up here at all? You think?
Hard to say, man. I think he's in the running for AOY for Kayak Bass, so he has a decision to make. I don't know what decision. If it were me personally, I think AOY is a lot harder to go chase. So I think I would go chase that if I was him.
For sure. So the no limit this year is at Lake Wallow, which you placed in second before. Do you have any plans for that? Are you just going to kind of hit the same kind of water? Or?
Probably not hit the same type of water. I think this is about a month later, and I think last year was a lot colder year, so I don't expect the fish to be doing the same thing. I mostly chase largemouth just because the smallmouth bite wasn't consistent for me. So I think this year will be totally different. I think it's definitely much later in the spawn. And from my experience, largemouth are a lot tougher to catch, on the Columbia once it gets later in that deep post spawn to summer transition. So I'll probably be in the middle of the river chasing smallmouth probably. And I think, for no limit, that's the best way to do it. and you have a chance out there to go catch a giant smallmouth. Like, I think my biggest out there is like, fortunately, it did not make it the weigh in, so I couldn't weigh it, but it was over 5 pounds.
What kind of advice would you give somebody the first time on the Columbia River and like Lake Waula area?
Biggest
Safety
advice.
wise, like safety.
I think the one thing is that you're fishing a river system, so always imitate a bait and naturally cast upriver. I see a lot of guys fishing like casting downriver and trying to work it up. That's not natural to these bass because they're always trying to be like, behind these little eddies, whether it's like an island or a rock pile, a point, whatever it is. They're always sitting on the downriver side. So you want to make sure you cast upriver to that area and bring it by them. That's more natural. That's something a lot of people don't really think of. So that'd be the biggest advice if you fish the main river.
Very true. Did you see they got a boat tournament on there this weekend now too, or the Waula weekend?
Yep, TBF. Yeah, I don't know if there's a different sector, but TBF Washington will be there. 30 boats shouldn't be too bad. It's a large river system. I kind of wish they launched up at Columbia Point because that would give us anybody fishing before the bend to the gorge at the Walla Walla a little bit more time to run around in the morning. But it is what it is.
Right.
Hopefully, half of them locked down the McNair Dam to Umatilla, so there's only like 15 boats up there. That's what I'm hoping for, at least.
It's totally possible.
Yeah.
I was down there the other day at the launch and it was pretty packed.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to that time of year too where pleasure boaters are out there, so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
So then that brings us to 2024, and the OKBF event number 1 was at Silkoos Lake, and you won that event. What was your strategy going into that? Did you meet your strategy? Did you like place it there the whole day, or did you have to change it up?
I didn't even know if I was going to catch a limit. Like I did a practice video, and I was like, I don't even know if I can catch a limit. I had one little area where I caught like, I think 3 fish during practice, and I was like, okay, well, there's fish here, but I didn't feel like they were the fish to win. Like Silkoos that time of the year, usually you're not catching, 3.5, 4 pounders like consistently. You're not doing too hot. There's usually someone who's going to do that. But that weekend, it just fished totally different. It was like the first warming trend. So I think all this fish wanted to do was just move up this pair and spawn. And they weren't really interested in eating unless it was like early morning. So definitely took advantage of that morning bite. I got lucky with a limit in my first area and had a couple fish on beds that I just kind of went to go upgrade towards the end of the day. Got pretty lucky.
You win tournaments in both shallow water and deep water. Do you have a preference on which one you like to fish more than the other?
Honestly, I prefer to fish deep. That's always been my go-to. Like even before like this whole, front-facing sonar stage, like I'd always be the only one like out in the middle of the lake or the river, side scanning, down scan, just utilizing my maps to find these fish offshore because I know they don't get pressure. I don't have to worry about other people beating them up. That's always been my go-to. That's pretty much what I did in like 2022. Was just fish offshore mostly, and then fish at the bank. I mean, everybody fishes the bank. It's always the easiest thing to do, so I try to stay away from it. But obviously, pre-spawn to spawn, you got to go fish the bank. So,
you have a preference of method? You like more finesse or power guy?
if I can fish power, I'll definitely do it, but definitely not afraid to pick up, a little fairy wand to go catch some fish. Some of my bigger fish have always came on spinning rods. It's just, pressure. Easier to trick them into eating something a little bit smaller.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things about, trying to be versatile is like, you fish the conditions, making changes necessary. That's one of the things where like I learned never get caught up on what you want to throw. They're the things that, the fish will tell you they want to eat.
Do you know that this June 15th tournament, like it's a KFNW event, are they going to break it down by state for the AOI points?
Typically,
like say you finish third in the overall, but you finish first for the Oregon, do you get those points for first for the OKBF?
Yeah, that's what they did 2 years ago. So I'd assume it'd be the same thing. But until last year, I didn't even realize it. But, if someone, let's say from Washington, fished an Oregon event. They also gained points for Oregon as well. So that's what threw me off at our final event. Marvin had to give me a call, and I was like, "All right, lay it on me. What happened?" And he's like, "Well, Dan Walker from Washington came down to fish 10 mile. So at that dual state event, I guess it was at Umatilla, he qualified for points. So he knocked me down one spot, which made me tie. So for the most part, I mean, I don't know who has fished, multiple states this early, but that's something that will fluctuate the standings as well.
It also takes a spot for the Kayak Bass Classic too. Like if somebody from out of state comes and wins, it takes that spot from like a Washington guy. Like Garrett, he came from Idaho, fished Whatcom once. Now he took a spot from a Washington guy to make it to that classic. Yeah. It's kind of interesting stuff.
I think that happened a couple times last year. I think Kegan went to fish Silver Lake and won that event. So he took a spot from Washington last year.
His name is Kegan?
Yeah, Kegan Pankratz.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Oh, super nice.
He gave me a battery once. Like one of those lithium batteries.
Yeah.
So anything, you got June 15th. Do you fish it any different because it's a no limit event and it's a AOI event, tour event?
No, I mean, for me, I still try to go for the tour event. I mean, if you try to do it right, you're gonna probably catch a big one. And I usually never go for the no limit. That's just not my thing. I rather just go for big bites. So that usually when it comes to these like combined events, I try to go for like the best 5 fish limit I can. And that'll be my strategy going to Wallula in a couple weeks.
That makes sense too. So I watched your most recent video about the going to Door Shack, catching your PV smallmouth. Man, how was that adventure?
It was so spontaneous. Like I was at Silk Goose and Jeff Little hit me up. He's like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna be rolling by in the next like 2 weeks." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then he calls me like Tuesday, "Hey, I'm actually gonna be coming up early. Can you fish this weekend?" I was like, "I just got back from Silk Goose. I'm like, I'm pretty beat." And I was like, "What do you have in mind?" I was like, "You want to fish Columbia?" Because he came up last year and fished Columbia with me. He's like, "I want to go to Door Shack." And I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "That's like 7.5 hours." And I said, "You know what? Screw it." I was like, "Let's go do it." I've never been there before. I was like, and like, pre-fishing this early in the year would mean nothing. That reservoir is going to drop so much by the time October comes around. But I was like, well, at least I can go see what the roads are like. And the roads are just not good. Like I had my trailer bouncing everywhere, like hitting potholes I shouldn't be hitting. But it was so cool. Like it reminds me of like Lake Shasta, but just giant smallmouth. Like it's just deep. And like you're crossing the lake and you're in 300 feet. I guess by the dam, it's like upwards of like 500 to 800. So it's totally different, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It was so cool. It was hard to break down, but kind of figured out a couple spots after one day. Wind picked up, which helped big time. But before that, I mean, it was kind of tough, honestly. You expect to go find them shallow and some flats or some bays to go spawn, but I could only find them on these like really long points.
Did the bite stay on as soon as the wind went down? Was that when the bite stopped, or?
It definitely toned down. I mean, it seems like it doesn't matter what it is, but that one picks up. The reaction bite definitely picks up more. What I saw was that when the wind picked up, this fish lifted off the bottom and started trying to find kokanee. So some of the fish I was catching, they were suspended in 30, 40 feet, and like 8 to 12 feet below the surface chasing kokanee. I had kokanee jumping around me. I wish I got some shots of it, but I was just like, oh, there's one. Just kind of going by. And I was like, okay, it's on now. So it was cool.
That is awesome. I've never been out there yet. I haven't fished Idaho but one time, Coeur d'Alene. You
got to get out there to Door Shack, man. I mean, it was my first time, but it was super cool.
How many days did you fish there?
Just a day and a half.
Day and a half.
Had I think we did 12 hours on Saturday. I left I think around 2:00 Friday. I worked a half day and then just drove straight. I think I did the 7.5 hour drive in like 8 hours. I made like 2 quick stops and that was it. And then, we had all day Saturday and then I fished till about 1 o'clock Sunday and then headed back home.
It was funny. I was like watching your story, and you were telling a story where but you wouldn't say where you were going, man. I was like, I thought for sure you're gonna be at Waula or something. I was surprised when you said Door Shack at the end of it.
Everybody thought I was going there, which was really funny. And I even obviously going through the Columbia River Gorge, like people are like, "Oh, he's definitely going to Wallula." I was like, "Nope, farther east."
So it wasn't a planned pre-fishing trip. It was just a spur of the moment. Your buddy's like, "Let's go fishing," and you were down to go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jeff was like, "We could have went anywhere, and I would have done it." So he was like, "Door Shack." I'm like, "All right, a little far, but let's do it."
You fishing every day almost?
No, I'm a
No.
weekend warrior, dude. Like I
No.
got work, and right now I'm still in full time school. I'm at Pullman State University trying to get my marketing degree. So my 5 days a week, I'm just tied down with that. So if I have time on the weekends, I go do it. But some of these guys, man, they're lucky, dude. They can fish like 4 times a week, 5 times a week, weekdays, no pressure from the weekend warriors. I'm like, man, you guys are lucky. I don't get that much time.
Is it getting busier on the weekends? Have you noticed? Like, how you see more kayaks? I guess when you're out fishing now.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see too many kayakers. Definitely like my home lake, Henry Hagg Lake, is starting to get a lot more people. Definitely see a few kayakers here and there, but that lake's been fishing pretty good this year, so it's getting really crowded. And there's a Facebook group that started, and everybody's posting their fish of smallmouth and largemouth, so everybody's just pouring in. But yeah, I mean, I honestly I don't see too many kayakers when I go out. Usually, if I have time, I'll try to go to like Columbia or something, and everybody's scared of the wind there, so
That's true. It gets pretty bad.
you can
It can. It comes out of nowhere.
definitely. I've been in some pretty rough stuff out there in bass boats. It's always trippy when you're out there and you see a 21-foot bass boat disappear in the waves. You're like,
I'm gonna turn around on you at that point. I think.
yeah.
Yeah. So you want to let's get into your YouTube stuff.
Cool.
You got 2.7 thousand subscribers and over 100 videos. Man, do you have any advice for someone that would just start out on YouTube as a fisherman?
Just click record and go with the flow, honestly. Like until I started kayak fishing, I mean, I did like some product videos and stuff, but I just learned, I'm like, dude, I just got to record and, kind of just let it flow. And then as you get a little more comfortable with it, maybe start talking to camera a little bit more. You don't have to go in super detail. Um, I like to talk a lot. So like, it's easy for me to talk to the camera, explain the things I do, but I also have done like a lot of seminars and stuff. So I know how valuable that is for other people to kind of feel like that they're there in that moment, I guess you could say. But some people just like to see fish being caught, and that's all it takes. Obviously show off the fish to the camera, but none of it can happen unless you press record. Set up a GoPro. Just one is fine. You can do two if you want, just as backup, but that's all it takes. And you just kind of try to make it interesting if you can. But at the end of the day, like you get one big fish, big catch on like camera. Sometimes that could be the kickstart that you need.
Your video quality is really good. Like your B-roll X is excellent. It's all they're fun to watch. The stories are always good.
Thanks.
How
Yeah,
many?
I'm a little over the top when it comes to that. I like to try to be a perfectionist. Like try to.
I like it. I think it's great. For sure. How many cameras and batteries and SD cards you got to carry on you?
Sometimes a lot, but I run all my GoPros. I got Hero 10s and I run them on like portable like chargers. I got some that work. Sometimes they don't work, but I got two that for sure work right now. So I can run that the whole day. I don't have to switch out batteries. But obviously, multiple day trip, it comes down to finding a way to charge them. I do have GoPro batteries just in case. Like my Jess GoPro at Door Shack, I've never fished for like 12 hours with that portable charger. So I ended up dying. So learned something new. Like obviously I've been doing it for a little bit, but I'm still learning every day, I guess. But yeah, I mean, not too much, honestly. My big camera is more like I bring a couple extra batteries just in case.
What's
And
the
I would
most time consuming part?
editing
Is
by far.
it getting easier? Like as you like get more experience with it? Or you like shortcuts and stuff on the
It
keyboard
gets,
or anything?
it gets easier, but then I'm like, oh, I want to try like a new way to edit, and then it goes back to square one all over again. But that's just me just trying to play around and try to, add different things that probably don't need to, but I just do it. But yeah, editing, I mean, like a video like Dorshek, I think that one took mm, 6 to 8 hours to edit, something like that. But that's just because I run two GoPros and you got to sync the audio and all that stuff. Cut off all the parts that in between, like that 12-hour day turned into 30-minute video. There's a lot of stuff to go through. It's like some of the stuff that, I'm explaining things. I'm like, do people really care about that? Yeah, let's cut that out. So just
Part of
polishing
the
everything.
process, for sure. YouTube. When is part 2 coming out?
Honestly, I haven't started it yet. So a much shorter day, so it should be pretty quick. That one, if anybody like saw any of my posts, Jeff caught a 7-pound smallmouth. So that's going to be the highlight of the video.
Cool.
It was a beast. That story is so funny. Like a little sneak peek. Like if anybody watched my video, there's a dock that I fished, and I think I caught like 8 to 10 fish off of it or something. But biggest was like a 3-pounder. And we were just running through all the spots because on day one he didn't really find anything like super big and impressive. And I was like, well, let's go run some of the stuff that I ran. And I was told him, I was like, usually the bigger fish are at the end of the dock. And I was like, go ahead, go fish. I'm gonna go fish the inside. His first cast, and he catches that 7-pounder. And I'm
Dang.
like, yeah, dude. And I was like, that could have been 2 BBs in a row at the same time, but it was, and he was so stoked. I mean, Jeff lives way on the East Coast, so it was a long haul.
Oh,
So I'm happy he broke his PB.
that's all 7 pounds, man.
It was a beast.
That's a
I think it was
big
like the
fish.
second biggest smallmouth I've ever seen.
That is crazy, man. What are your next plans? What are your, I think after Waula, you got a wedding, and then
Let's see, Wallula. After Wallula, I think I got a weekend free, which will be nice, and then I go down to California for that Bass Nation wild card event to qualify for the Bassmaster, I guess, Classic Kayak Classic. So that's at Clear Lake. That's gonna
you
be 2 weeks
traveling with
after.
people, or
Yeah, pretty much the same group that I've been traveling with to California. We're all gonna be together. I think who's with me? Matt, Colin Sutton. Let's see, John Bush from Idaho. He'll be with us. Greg Marshall, Jason McClure. No, I don't think Jason's actually going. Who else is there? Justin Cran, Rick Kelly, and then there's a couple other people. They're probably gonna be mad at me. I'm forgetting their names, but we're already booked for West Coast Championships, so it's like we got multiple houses going on.
is that going to be your first bass event, or have you done one of those previously?
Haven't done one, so that'll be a fun one. The wild card is a super cool opportunity. Kong, who's runs California Bass Nation, that's a big thing for him to take on to allow us kayak anglers an opportunity to go fish out east. They always say we don't get much love out here on the West Coast, so it's nice that we have an opportunity to try to qualify for that. So I think I speak on behalf of everybody who's going to be at the event, are super stoked, and definitely fortunate for Kong giving us the opportunity.
It is a good opportunity for sure, especially for the West Coasters. If you qualify, you think you're going to make it to the finals?
I'm definitely going to go whatever ways. If I got to sell rods or beg for money on the street, I'm going to do it.
For
Because I
sure.
think 2025 Classic is in Fort Worth, Texas. So it's like the closest we're going to get to a Classic. So 2025 is the best year to try to qualify for.
Is there any other way to do it? That's the only way, right, for us?
That, or yeah, you go fish, the Bass Nation Kayak Series events out east. And even that, I don't even know how they qualify. I don't know if it's like, they might do it where it's like, top 5 or something, or top 10 at each event, AOY, the same kind of stuff that like we do. But I think that's the only way. And there are some sticks out there too.
How many people are going to, you think like Utah's going to show up, in Arizona?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a mix. Majority of the time for these kayak events in California, it's probably still like 80% California people. And then obviously you get people from the Pacific Northwest, Arizona, Utah, like you said. but I'm gonna say he has like 75-80% California like anglers.
You're pretty tight with them. You're down there quite a bit, yeah.
Met a bunch of people along the way, so it's definitely cool to see everyone.
I think that's all the questions I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? I can't think of anything. I know I went by pretty quick, huh?
It did. You got any sponsors or anything?
I do have some companies that I do work with. Obviously, Next Adventure. I mean, they're the reason why I got into kayak fishing. They're the ones who gave me the opportunity to have a kayak to use. I also work with Torpedo. That's the motor I run. Had the opportunity to run whatever motor I wanted and decided to run that. It's been flawless. AFCO is a big supporter of mine. Run all their apparel, keeps me comfortable and dry or cool on the water. Z-Man, of course. Got my whole Z-Man wall right here. That's they helped me with getting the bait set to get the job done. Shimano Loomis, that's the rods and reels I use. Yakima racks. So got the top water box there. That's one that I actually had an opportunity to help kind of design early in the day. And then the one actually on my truck is like the beta prototype. So that thing's been
Really?
through 7 years of abuse from me. Discount Tackle, KFNW sponsor. That was a cool one that see come together. I'm happy that there were Marvin and Discount Tackle were able to work something out to help the anglers.
Marvin
Yeah.
doesn't stop working, does he?
No, I bet. I mean, it's good to have Marvin around. I'm happy he has less responsibilities as a tournament director because now he can focus on just growing KFNW as a whole. He has a marketing background and he's good at what he does. And I tell people all the time, like, KFNW with the payouts, the sponsors, it wouldn't be anything without Marvin. And he makes it like feel like a much bigger circuit than it is. Like, and he tells me all the time, like TDs from like other organizations are like, "How do you pull this off?" Yeah, the payout is ridiculous for the amount that we pay, and that's all thanks to Marvin. Big shout out to
Right.
Marvin.
For sure. Good guy. He knows what he's doing.
Definitely.
He's definitely got the best interest of the anglers for sure.
So, question to you: what's your plan for this podcast? What's your goals? Let's say a year from now. What are you planning? What do you want to do with it?
Grow the sport, kind of grow like a fan base for you guys, competitors, and then give you guys a space to talk and communicate and just keep growing. And eventually like hire some people, get back into like the boat scene too, cover those and expand.
Right on. Do you have like a? Because I know you upload to some um like some other sites, but like YouTube as well. Like, do you have like a goal you want to hit by the end of the year? Like, I guess maybe like subscribers on YouTube or anything, or
Man,
Instagram
but
followers.
believe it or not, like this channel's already succeeded farther than I thought it would. Like 50 subscribers was my goal by the end of the season, and we just hit 50 today. And then for Instagram, I'd like to get to 1,000 by like the end of the season too.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. Like, I mean, like when you start YouTube, you don't know if anybody's gonna watch this stuff or not. I'm like rambling about boat kayak tournaments.
yeah,
But it's been fun. The response has been good. The people have been nice. And everyone's been cool about coming on the podcast. Like everyone I've asked has been more than happy to do it.
yeah,
That
yeah. It's
camaraderie
super
again.
cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people will definitely probably agree with me that they appreciate you giving everyone a voice here because like that's one of the things that I strive to do is like try to just give a little more light to the Pacific Northwest, the anglers, the people in general, like especially the bass market. Like we get no love out here. So it's like any sort of publicity we can get, the better. That's why it's one reason why I work hard to go like ICAST and stuff and all this other stuff and work for these big companies. I'm like, hey, we got people out here who are actually like can compete or be better some of these people who get love on the East Coast or what California, whatever it is. Like we got some sticks out here that could do everything, whether it's product marketing or just fishing tournaments well as a whole.
There are a lot of hammers out here for sure. The competition's getting really stiff. I mean, it's the online stuff I've been following. This is like within inches every time. Get the
Mm-hmm.
top 5.
I can't do it online. These people fish way too much. I'm like, I'll get 1 or 2 weekends of fish. I'm like, and that's even like one day during the weekend. I was like, I don't know,
Right.
that's tough for me.
So what do you do for their marketing, like social media? Are you
Social media. I also run kind of like partnerships with people and a handful of other stuff. We don't have a huge team, so I'm kind of a man of different duties over there.
makes sense?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of employees? Like, is it a big? I know you got like 4 stores, but you
Good. I mean, for the size of the next venture, we definitely have a decent team. From buyers to data leads and stuff, and like um, let's see, marketing team. We have, I mean, a whole bunch of people, but we're still only 4 stores local to Oregon, so but we do have a pretty good amount. That makes things easy. We just opened up a giant warehouse in Gresham within the last, I don't know, last 8 months. So definitely expanding and growing. I think that place is so huge compared to our old place.
so if anybody's looking for a kayak, that'd be the place to go. The
Oh yeah,
Northwest Portland.
you can get
It's got
everything.
Goose.
We already got like wait lists for like new orders and stuff. Like people are waiting for new kayaks to come in. They can't send them fast enough to us, which is really cool. And it's cool to see like a lot of his KFNW.
Very cool. Then you got a torpedo on yours. How was the install for that? Did you install that or?
Yep, I pretty much did everything myself. And, everything on my kayak. I don't let anybody touch my kayak. Even though Matt Walker, he's kind of like the rigging guy for Next. He rigs out like a lot of people's kayaks. I'm like, no, dude, because for me, it's like if I can rig everything out, I know where everything is at, how it's put together, and if something goes wrong, I should, I should know how to fix it. So that's one of my things. Like when it came to my John boat or even my bass boat, I rigged up all the wiring and everything. Like same thing. I mean, most people like I just watched YouTube videos how to do it and just did it and got better over time. But I definitely take pride in that work, so I know how to fix it. Because nothing's worse than like going down to the West Coast Championship or whatever it is, and something goes wrong. It's like, well, I don't know how this kayak works, so I try to make sure I can minimize that sort of issues that comes down the road.
Right. That makes sense too, for sure. Is there like a certain kayak Matt sees come in? He's like, I don't even want to deal with that.
Not really. He enjoys like the puzzle to rig stuff out. He'll like he's not afraid to do the proper like holes or cutting to get the job done and make it look clean. So he enjoys that. And for him, like he sees all these kayaks that he's built, running around at these tournaments or just at the local bayou lakes. Like he brings out a lot of people's kayaks who don't even fish KFNW events. Like they're just maybe like they're salmon anglers or trout anglers who got rigged up kayaks just as much as mine, and they're just out there just fun fishing. It's super cool.
You got front facing sonar on yours, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got Active Target too. I think this is my second year running it.
Very cool.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to have, but it's more honestly like, oh, the structure's right there. I rarely like look at it to like, oh, there's a fish there or this and that. Like more so, it's like when you're middle of the lake or the river or whatever, you lose track of where you're casting because you can't see what's underneath the water. So most time it just allows me to like point at a target and like, okay, that's the cast I need to make. More so just saving time on the water, honestly.
For sure. Seems like it's a good tool, I think.
Hmm. It's a tool, but it definitely is not it's not gonna make you go win tournaments. Definitely takes a lot to learn. I'm still learning.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to use this anymore. Too complicated.
You got 2 screens on your boat then? Like you got the down imaging, side imaging.
Yeah, I got 2 Lowrance Elite FS9s. They're just, kind of like intermediate graphs, 9-inch touchscreen, super easy to use. I've used them all from Humminbird, Garmin, and Lowrance. Like I've used it all, and they're just super easy. So I got one on the side, just so I can put my net there. Honestly, some people run like 2 on the front, but I've always felt like it wasn't necessary to like lean forward and reach to your graph to set a waypoint to switch screens or whatever. Like I wanted to be right next to me so I can just press it. But front facing sonar, that stays on the front because I just leave that thing turned on the whole day. Don't touch it at all.
Huh. How long does it take you to get from like the loading dock to unload your boat and then get onto the water to your first cast?
It's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, especially with the Snake River locker. And like that was one of the things when Steve Carroll from Snake River Lockers, we were talking about designing a trailer like this one. I had quite a bit of input on this, just like all the other trailers. Like for us kayak anglers, is always about minimizing the amount of time possible, like not doing the things you're supposed to be doing. So me launching is super quick, loading up is super quick, and then obviously with the motor I can usually pass everybody and get to where I need to go. So it's just, time is our biggest enemy as kayak anglers, and whatever we can do to reduce that time to where we can fish more and make more casts. That's pretty much the setup that I pretty much put together.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Speed is definitely the answer.
Sometimes.
I've
had a couple times where I'm like, I shouldn't be going this fast, and I like I'd smoke a rock pile or something because I'm not paying attention.
How fast do those torpedoes bring your Hobie up to?
On average, 6'3", 6'4".
Wow.
California Delta with current and outgoing tide, I think I saw like 8'9" or 8'8" or something like that. That was scary. It was cool at the same time. I mean, I like speed. Coming from the bass boat, like going 70, 75 miles per hour. Like I like going fast. So as soon as I can get some speed, I'm like, yes.
That's funny. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Question wise, it's gonna be a good year. Next month's gonna be busy.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, and hopefully people start signing up soon for the native event and the tri-state event. Definitely is one of those times where it's do or die for the native event up here. So if you're watching this, guys, get signed up
today.
Yeah, as soon as we can. I don't even know when the cutoff is. I want to say it's like next Friday.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, if we don't break 100, it's a goodbye native event. I feel like.
Is that what they're rushing for? Have you seen the Alabama? Or is it Alabama's the way East Coast one, right? There's like 4 or 5 people in that one.
I thought we were the same as like St. Clair. I don't even know. There's one on the same day somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking about Alabama. I don't know about St. Clair. This is the one on the same day as St. Clair. That's going to be interesting too. St. Clair's like a smallmouth lake, right?
Mm-hmm. Big smallies, but also big water.
Yeah.
I love how like both of these native events, it's like big waters, big waves, and then just some kayakers trying to take it over. Sing. But Wallula at least has places you can hide, even with the wind. So it's not bad. We were like Lake Umatilla, if it's windy, there's nowhere to hide.
That's just a little more south, right?
Mm-hmm, right below McNary Dam.
Yeah.
It's just like, go ahead.
Does it get windier over there by Umatilla? Would you say? I have no idea.
Both could be equally, but just Wallula has more places where you can tuck away. Umatilla definitely can get pretty big in some areas. I've heard stories of a lot of boats sinking out there.
Oh.
I've been out there in some big stuff too. It'll make you pucker up for sure.
It's never fun, man.
You guys rip graphs off the front of their bass boats. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty nasty.
That sounds terrible. That's crazy though. Water just rips it off, like this just gets that high.
Oh, they just stuff waves. You're running on one and think you can clear it to the next one, and you just drop in one of those troughs and just boom, spears it. Or you're getting up top. The thing about the Columbia is like it's a gust that makes it nasty for running a boat, because you'll get that random gust that makes one wave bigger than the rest, and you think you got a rhythm, and then out of nowhere there'll be like a wide gap or like a much bigger wave, and you'll drop into it.
Yeah,
totally different from like running like a lake. Lakes, you have a little bit more rhythm. The current is on the river is always, a huge factor with that gust. So a lot of guys come up here, like the fish pro-ams and stuff. They're like, "Oh, we got this. Like we fish big water all the time." And then they're like, "What the heck was that I just went through?"
I told you.
Totally different beast.
That's funny though. Pro-ams. Have you done any of those? What are those? I don't even remember the name of them. They're like a one-off event. They come to Columbia every now and then, Tri-Cities. I don't remember the league name of it though. So they just started like last year.
Oh, BAM, Bass Angler Magazine.
Yeah, that one.
Mark Lassane circuit. I wanted to go fish that event, but I think it's the same time as the Clear Lake event for the Bass Nation wild card. So unfortunately, I won't be able to fish it. I'm still debating. I want to go fish that Trinity event, but that's like in between weekends of Native Wallula and then also the Bassmaster at Clear Lake. I'm like, oh, I'll just go down the weekend before and fish it, but that's probably pushing it for me. But Mark was saying he's a good dude. He's trying to run a well ran circuit for the West Coast anglers, and I've known Mark for a long time, so see, he's doing a good job.
Their marketing's really good. I've seen it all over the place.
That's his background from this magazine. So I was surprised to see how he put together the whole circuit so quick, but I mean, he has a lot of networking connections and a lot of people who support him, so it makes definitely life easier for him.
Definitely. I'll have to meet him. I haven't met him. I've read the magazine though.
Yeah, you should go fish that event. What are you doing in end of June?
The Jude? I don't know. Not much.
Probably should go. Because aren't you from Tri-Cities?
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I guess it's at Umatilla, but
it's like an hour, I think.
Yeah, I think they're
Walu is like a rock throw.
Yeah, I think they're launching out of Boardman Marina. So,
okay,
it wouldn't be bad. You should go fish it.
I should. I got that sit-in kayak though. I can't fish the river in that thing. I can, but it's not easy.
It's just a pro-am event, just out of boats.
Oh,
co-angler, pro, boater, whatever you want to call them.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Co-angling. I haven't done that yet, but this would be a good idea. If I learn a lot.
Yeah. So pretty much how I started is just fishing as a co-angler. So you can always appreciate people who take the time to do it. You can learn a lot.
Have you fished bass most of your life?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when I was young, typical Pacific Northwest species like trout, sturgeon, like my pops is what got me into fishing. So, like, I think I said in my video, like Idaho was super special to me because that was where I got started bass fishing for smallmouth. My dad and I would go catch crappie on the Snake River. And then, like, in the evening times, we'd throw crappie jigs at bushes and catch smallmouth. And just like, we're like, all right, cool. Like, throw them back. And then we just go fish crappie because, like, obviously crappie fillets are just bomb. But yeah, I mean, I started off fishing trout and sturgeon and at the coast, surf perch and, all the typical Pacific Northwest stuff. But everybody does it. And I'm like, everywhere you go, it's just like shoulder to shoulder or like a million boats on the water. So I was like, dude, I want to do something different. This is not cool. Like, I hate fishing around crowds. Like, you'll see me at like any of these tournaments. I don't care. I'll go run 4 miles one direction to get away from everybody. Right. Like, let me get my space.
That's funny. Yeah. That's true, though. Yeah, that's why I started off short fishing, was to get away from most people. Just be by yourself.
Yeah.
I got just one more question. So I was watching you catch this sturgeon on this video, and it wrapped up with another dude. I think this is where I left off. I had to leave, but like you were wrapped up with either another guy or the fish wasn't coming in. How did that resolve?
Dude, it was gnarly, man. Like, it felt weird at the beginning. And I was like, something doesn't make sense. And then I'm like tugging, and I can see the other guy tugging, like his rod going down at the same time. And the guy's like, dude, I think you guys are hung up. So I thought we had 2 big fish like that were just wrapped around each other, which wouldn't have surprised me. And then he ended up cutting his line, and that line like wrapped around my slider and my weight and everything. So like I could reel down to about where that knot was, and I had like 7 or 8 feet of leader, like pretty much that I couldn't reel up. So I had to have one of my buddies, Ian. He had to come up next to me and try to help lift this fish up. It was just gnarly, but there. When I first saw it, it looked like there was two hooks in its mouth, and then one popped off. I think just from the line getting all wrapped up, and then I think it was just his hook left. So it was and then the hook got like, I don't know, it was wedging there so weird I couldn't even do anything with it. So unfortunately I had to cut it off. Like I had pliers to it, and I was just like, this thing's like over 150 pounds probably. I'm in a kayak. I'm like, dude, there's no way I can keep holding on to this fish trying to pop that hook out. That was gnarly. I don't know. People are saying it's like 7 foot, but
Jeez,
definitely the biggest out of the kayak so far.
Were you nervous at all about the boat tipping, or the boat handle that?
No, I mean, I fished for sturgeon like my entire life. Like I've caught 9 and 10 footers out in Astoria when I was a kid.
Dang.
Like it'd be like 2 hour fights, drop the anchor and just let it pull you with the current. So it wasn't bad. It's all drag control. And I feel like, I've been in a kayak long enough to know where the tipping points are. So it's just let the fish fight, loosen up the drag, and just wear them out. That's pretty much the biggest thing. I think Dan was saying in your last chat with him, he was like, yeah, I want to go fish it, but, I don't know who to go with, or like, I'm kind of worried in a way, but so Dan, if you're watching this, you got to come down here and fish it with us. It's pretty crazy. It's not bad at all.
I bet he will. He should, yeah.
I mean, this is an open invite to anybody. Siapu's Bay, right where Next Adventure is, they're loaded in that bay. Like it's almost every cast you get bit. It's ridiculous. It can be like a 3-footer and it could be a 6-footer, but it's so fun. Dang. Like every cast, they just go in there to go. I think they go spawn, and it's like mostly it's like 5 to 8 feet deep. And those fish, they have nowhere to go but up, so they go airborne all the time. It's super cool.
It's really only 8 feet deep out there?
Yeah, the channel maybe gets like 12 to 15, but it's just big, shallow. It's a big shallow bay, so most of the flats are 5 foot or less.
I always pictured it different than that.
You'll make a cast and you just feel them like swimming through your line because they're just loaded in some of these areas. Like some people will get a little trigger happy and set the hook and get them like right in the tail or something, and then they're screwed because that's like gives the fish all the power. That's cool. John Bush came down a couple times to fish with us out there, and he's hooked. He's totally hooked. He had one that jumped like next to his kayak, and literally like the tail was like about where his head is, like sitting in the kayak. It like gave him a little tap on the face. And we're like, oh crap. And he's like, dude, that was sick. And we're like, dude, you're crazy, dude.
That is crazy. I'm going to have to go try that.
It's fun, man. You got to come down anytime. I think we're starting to get towards like the end of the season, but typically like March to like now is usually like the best. Like we can probably still go out there and go catch them. I hear they're still jumping out there. But yeah, it's a blast.
I got a noted March.
Yeah,
March through now.
It's cool, man. Like people go paddle up there and like wreck kayaks, touring kayaks all the time. We had a demo day actually for Next Adventure. We had some reps that came in for Eddy Line, and a bunch of staff is just out there paddling, and you just see this dorsal fin go by them. They're like, "What the heck was that? Is that a shark?" And I'm like, "Pretty close."
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Sweet. Thanks for coming on, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. We'll definitely have to do it again soon.
For sure.
Feel free to hit me up anytime.
Definitely.
Appreciate everything you're doing to shine some light on the Pacific Northwest and give everybody here a little bit of a voice.
Thanks for playing on it, for sure. I'm not going anywhere. This is fun. Like, I'm having a good time.
Yeah. I started showing your podcast to a few of the other guys. Are like, we didn't even know we had one of these here, and they're all like tuning into it.
That's awesome. The other response has been good. Like, people have been really neat, cool. Way more surprising than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Man, I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing we would do at the boat launch, talking fishing. So it's all easy stuff.
Right.
I'm pretty sure everybody loves to talk fishing. So it's easy for all of us.
It's like the other half of fishing is talking about what you're fishing for, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thanks again, man. That was fun.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Well, have you on
Take
again
care.
for sure.
Sounds good.